Welcome to Happily Ever After, the podcast where we talk about life's big stories, from breakups and breakdowns to icky secrets and happy endings. It's the stuff that makes us human. I'm your host, Hannah Harvey. I'm a writer and a parenting blogger at mumsdays.com. I'd be really grateful if you could subscribe and leave a review because it basically means more people can find the podcast. And I also absolutely love hearing from you, so please do contact me through Instagram at mumsdays, MUMSDAYS, with any of your stories and any thoughts you might have on the episode or any questions. You can find all the details from this episode in the show notes. Hello and welcome to Happily Ever After. It's me, Hannah, and today I'm joined by Katie.
Hello.
My good podcasting chum.
That's
chum
me,
chum.
the chum chum.
And I realised, Katie, I've never actually shared your Instagram handle.
You do, all the time.
Do I?
Not on the podcast, actually, you're right.
No, so Katie often comes on and we'll discuss life together from two different perspectives. Where can people find you on the internet?
So I guess the place where I'm most present is Instagram. And it's at Katie Wombling Free, which started as like an interiors account for when I was nesting, unemployed and nesting and looking after my mental health. But it still goes on. So if you want to look at nice pictures of like bits of art I've put up in the house, that's the place to go. I am also on Substack, katiedawson.substack.com. So I write about my life and overshare there as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Good.
After listening, after reading your last Substack, because you send out a newsletter once a month, right?
Yeah.
Of like really great things she's been reading, and you read a lot. And watching your take on Maths UK, so Married at First Sight this year, was so good. I then immediately went and started watching it. So.
Oh, that's nice.
That was nice. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem, yeah. It's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Well, has it been in the past, though, or is this your first one?
Yeah, this is new, yeah.
Can we blame Claire Venus for this?
No, actually, no. It's my friend Amy's fault. She said to me, like, really seriously, like, I need to know if you're going to watch it this year or not. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And spent 2 days binge watching 11 episodes. And I think it was really bad for me. I was dreaming about the characters afterwards. So, yeah, that's what I like to do.
Good.
Yeah.
My brother did something similar with RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yep, that one's a good one to binge watch, definitely.
Yeah, so a few years ago he was like, there's literally nothing more important right now than you watching RuPaul's Drag Race.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
I did. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the last few, but anyway.
No, same. Yeah.
The reason I've got you here, Katie,
yeah, let's talk about that,
is because I thought I'd talk to you about the 5 worst things about divorce, but also the 5 best things.
How nice. Yes, good. It's important to frame that from both sides.
Yeah, because it's there are good bits and bad bits, let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Are you up for that?
Definitely. Let's hear it.
Thanks, babes.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll talk it through. So, okay, starting with the worst, which I think is probably, you don't need to be getting divorced for these to be, for either actually to be the case. It's like a bad breakup, which I know you've experienced recently.
I've had a few of them, you know.
I've had loads of them. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I think it'll relate.
And this first one, I remember when I first split up with my first proper boyfriend. Like, we'd been together about 5 years and it was coming to the end and it was not working. And I remember just sitting and thinking, I don't know who I am when I'm not with him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand what I have going for me if I'm not with this person. And I think that's quite a common feeling to have when you split up with someone who's been so integral to your life. Like, you live with them, you see them every day. So yeah, that kind of identity crisis, who am I without this person, is probably one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely.
And it can leave you being trapped and being like, oh, I'm not going to leave because who even am I?
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely experienced that and not been through divorce, but like I think you become a we after a certain amount of time in a relationship, don't you? And it's we do this and we like this, and then when you don't have that anymore, it's like, who is I? I've made a vow to myself to never end up in that situation again.
Really?
Like, yeah, because it's like so important to make sure that you've still got your identity when you're with someone else, I think, because otherwise you do go through the identity crisis at the end of a relationship.
Mm-hmm. So it was probably that first relationship was the beginnings of codependency.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how do I exist without this other person? Which was weird because we were quite independent. Like, he did his stuff. I'd been away to I ended up in Japan for 3 months working at Tokyo Uni. I don't know how that happened because I definitely didn't do much for them. But, I was away, and when I came back, he was like, I didn't really miss you.
Oh, wow.
Which was the beginning of the end, obviously.
Yeah, great.
But even so, even though we had lots of different interests and didn't spend all our time together, I still had that identity crisis.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that because I'm like that as well. Like, I've always been an independent person who's done my own things and had my own friends. And yet still when you come out of a relationship, it's like, who even am I anymore? Maybe that's just a natural thing that happens, part of the grieving process. Yeah.
Like, you're losing something significant, whether they're in your pocket or not.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's definitely a big bit. Obviously, another thing is the general shock. Like, it is a trauma.
Yeah, it is.
I know it's not the same as, it's not death or, a serious accident or an illness or something, but it still feels traumatic to your brain because it's change. Mm-hmm. Change is traumatic, isn't it?
Especially if it's a breakup that you've been blindsided by,
Oh, God, yeah.
If it's something that you weren't expecting to happen, it can hit you just as hard as any of the other things that cause trauma, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. Women have reached out to me because of this podcast many times, and it's like, he's just left.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know. I had no idea that this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And that state of shock. What am I meant
to do now?
Yeah, that state of shock can last ages as well. Like, you end up in fight or flight.
Yes. Yeah. And I think when you're in that bit, the roller coaster of emotions is just, there's not much you can do other than just ride the wave and try not to, what's the word? Go off the rails. I think I want to say too much. Like, try not to lean on very unhealthy habits.
Yeah, try not to spiral, I guess.
Yeah. Like, really go back to basics. Yeah. Have I brushed my teeth? Have I eaten meals? If you've got kids, what are their basic needs?
Yeah.
Being present. Yeah, a really good podcast we did was with Leanne Bennett.
Oh, yes.
Episode 28, and she talks all about kind of mental health and divorce. And just covering that whole idea of, how do you cope when you don't know from one day to the next how you're going to feel.
I think it's really important to go easy on yourself when you're in that fight or flight as well, you've had something traumatic happen to you, and I don't think we give ourselves enough time to process that. You're meant to sort of just get back on with your life, but it's not like that.
Yeah, you got to talk about it as well.
Yeah.
But it's talking about it in a healthy way, which can be tricky as well.
Yes, that's true.
There's times when I probably sat with my friends and slagged off my ex for much longer than was necessary.
Yeah.
But whereas, doing things like talking therapies I found really helpful. And at one point when I was feeling really traumatized, I called my therapist and I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And he's like, you need to talk to your friends. You need to be talking to people.
Yeah. And did you find it made you feel better when you talked about it with your friends?
I think so. But you do feel like a burden.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm going to turn up and tell you all the awful things. And you need to be careful that people aren't like, ooh, drama and gossip.
That's true, yeah. But also, if it's making you feel better, they can think what they want to think, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know pretty quickly which friends that you want to talk to about this stuff and which ones you're like, I think I'll just talk to you about other stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely. You do know those.
What's happened next? Yeah. I'm like, oh, you don't even want to know. Yeah. So I think at that point, my friendship circle got quite a bit smaller. And I was like, I'm just going to, lean on the friends that are happy to hold space for this. Because it is a lot, if people are reaching out to me, there'll be times when I'm like, oh, I need to make sure that I'm looking after myself while I'm holding space for other people that are going through all this trauma.
That's true.
So as the person who's listening, you also need to try not to take on, especially as an empath, what's happening to your friend or whatever, and make sure you do something nice for yourself afterwards so you're not carrying that around. Because, I mean, I hear some absolute horror stories and afterwards I'll be like, oh, God, these poor people.
And it's like, I think it's really hard knowing your own capacity as well for that sort of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, because we, both of us are kind of problem solvers. Put me in a crisis and I will find you whatever it is you need. Yeah. Like, that's my comfort zone.
Yeah, it is mine as well, yeah.
But I kind of wish it wasn't. Yeah. Because it's also highly stressful for the body.
Yeah, it is.
So yes, that whole roller coaster of emotions, the sadness and the grief. Yeah, physically you don't know from one day to the next how you're going to feel. And the slightest thing can push you into panic attack, I found.
Yeah, I think that's right. And and then you'll blame yourself for that. So I guess it's about like going easy on yourself when you're having a hard time when you weren't expecting to, like, because it's going to take as long as it takes for you to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's not linear. So, 3 years later, there'll still be times that I'm like, fuck's sake. Yeah. Not happy about this situation. Another thing is, we sort of touched on it before, but it can start to highlight addictions.
Yes.
So if you're using something that isn't good for you as a way to distract yourself. Yeah. I think that's it. So it's that whole, I'm feeling the void. Who even am I? Yeah. I'm just going to shove some booze on this, or bagels would be my...
We've all got our crutches, whether that's like drinking or eating too much, or some people like exercise obsessively, when they're really struggling with something, which is probably the least damaging one, but then there's that as well.
It can be.
Yeah, acknowledging your crutches, isn't it? And
yeah. Trying to moderate is very difficult when you're feeling terrible. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to do this thing because then at least I'm not thinking about how awful I feel. Yeah. And actually when you're in that feeling awful space, that's the time when you really need to sit and cry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember when my homework, I had a life coach when I was like, when I first left, I called this life coach and I'm like, she wasn't a life coach, she was a business coach. I was like, I've written a book, I want to get a book published. Oh, and yesterday I left my husband of 12 years. And she's like, holy shit. Yeah. And I think after about a month of seeing her, she was like, okay. I was like obsessively mapping out my week to the point where I was writing when I was going to have a bath, when I was going to drink a coffee, just to get some control back. Yeah. And she was like, your homework next week is to do none of these things, and stare out of the window. Yeah. And that was when, like, finally I started, because I cried before that. I cried for the children, but I never really processed what I was feeling.
I don't think you can force that either. It needs to
You can sit, you say this about writing, I'm like, you can sit your ass on the front of a laptop, put your fingers on the keys and words will start to appear. Yeah. And it's the same for crying.
That's true.
All I had to do was look out the window for like 2 minutes and then all of a sudden I was like, ah!
Yeah. No, what I mean is, like, I don't think you can force it, but you can definitely give yourself... You can definitely avoid giving yourself space to do that, and you can definitely give yourself space to do that. And I often find when you do give yourself space to do that, it comes out.
Yeah. Although I have spoken to other friends about this, because I've said to another friend, I was like, you need to just sit and cry, let it out. And she's like, I've sat and like...
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you just got to keep trying till it comes, because it will.
Yeah. But I'm a very watery person, so...
True.
Crying comes quite easily for me.
Want to give us a little tear?
I couldn't right now.
Okay.
I mean, I might later. We'll see how we go.
Okay, great.
I probably could, actually.
Oh, no, don't cry. No, it's okay. I don't want you to cry.
Oh. Fear around being alone.
Oh, yeah, that's a biggie.
In brackets, forever.
Dramatic.
Yeah. That whole feeling of like, you've got your whole life in front of you. And I remember thinking like, who the hell is going to want me?
Yeah.
Which I'm not trying to be like a big-headed or anything, but back in the time I was literally thought, I'm turning 40, I've got 2 kids, I'm just a massive, like, I'm just somebody with loads of baggage.
Yeah.
And no one will ever want me.
Yeah. I think that's a issue with society, isn't it? It's like you need to find, and the happily ever after narrative, you know, it's like you need to find your Prince Charming when you in your early 20s, marry him, and then that's who you're going to be with forever. But actually, people find love at all ages. Like, it's definitely not, like, and circumstances as well. Like, it's nothing to do with whether you're a desirable candidate or not. You know, it's about finding the right person.
And even before that, the issue there wasn't anybody else, it was me.
Well, that's true as well.
Who the hell's going to want me? And it's because I couldn't see it myself.
Yeah.
So that whole process of working through who I am on my own, what I'm into. Yeah. And I was like 37 at the time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't...
Well, you weren't a whole 40.
Not
God,
a whole, but
God
like
forbid.
I am now.
No, I know, because I mean,
looking back, you can sort of laugh at yourself, like, of course you're going to be fine.
Yeah. No, but even for me, like, going back to dating now at 32, I'm like, oh, well, everybody's already married. You know, like, it's just natural for that to go through your head, I think, you know?
Yeah. And actually touching on the whole idea of dating, like, even when you are ready to start dating, it's a bit of a minefield at this age, I think.
Yeah. More so than it would be if you were in your early 20s, yeah, I think so, yeah.
Or even later on.
Yeah.
Once you get to, like, 50, I don't know, like, I couldn't even really say, but we'll say around the 50 bracket, you're probably not going to want kids anymore.
No, that's true. The kid thing is a big thing.
So people that I might date now, you've got one half who are maybe my age but have never had kids but would like them. Or you've got somebody who's got lots of kids.
And doesn't want any more.
I mean, I personally never want to have a baby inside me again.
Right, yeah. I know, and that's such a strong, like, that's really important to you. You know, it's like when if you're trying to find your partner when you're in your early 20s, you got the whole life ahead of you, got loads of time to make a decision about whether you want to have a kid or not. And like, when you do it later on, there's then this big sort of elephant in the room, which is about whether you have kids or whether you don't, or whether you want them, or all of that to consider as well, you know, and it has to be dealt with there and then, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of does. Like, if somebody knows that they definitely want kids, you should not be dating. Or that you definitely don't.
Yeah.
On the subject of people that I have dated.
Yeah. Or if you have kids and they're like, I don't want kids, that's like a red flag, you know?
Well, we live and learn, don't we?
We do live and learn. We live and learn.
Lived it, learned it. You can't change people. If they tell you something about themselves, take it as read.
Yeah.
Like, you can't change them, and don't try.
No, I know.
Which is something that I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll change your mind.
Yeah, same. I think that as well. Whereas, like, you don't even want that person that you think you can change. Like, it doesn't work. And the other thing at this age is everybody you date is somebody else's ex. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, but everybody, I suppose unless you're 16, everybody is somebody's ex, you know?
But there's more to play for now.
Yeah.
Like, so I went on a date with somebody, came to my house to pick me up. We went down to the beach and then went for a meal. And then he told me the next week that somebody who knew his ex had seen us.
Oh, yeah.
And told his ex that he'd been out with some blonde hussy.
Ah, yes, you, the blonde hussy.
That's me. But I was like, this person lives on my street.
Yeah.
And that's what they think of me.
Yeah.
And that's been, obviously it's all word of mouth and Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
But
and
it made me feel very sad and uncomfortable.
Yeah, and the only reason that they've said hussy is because you were on a date, which is, that's... But, you know, it was a man and they wouldn't...
Yeah, they wouldn't have been like
that.
some blonde... what would you call a male hussy? Is there a word for it? Player?
Yeah, player, yeah. Or... Yeah, that's it. Or,
who the hell would say
fuck
that?
Boy.
Some blonde fuck boy.
Yeah.
That's who I go out with.
But they wouldn't say that.
They wouldn't say it. And I just was like, that's such a blur thing to say. You know, I'm a single mum living on a street with my kids and somebody on my street would describe me as that.
I know, it's horrible. That's horrible. I'm sorry that that's happened.
Thank you, Katie. Like, it's fine. I'm over it now. But it did make me think, like, oh, God, everybody is somebody else's ex. So you're naturally walking into a potential conflict situation.
Yeah.
When you date somebody new.
Well, and especially when you live in a small place, I guess.
That guy was from a different town.
Yeah.
He just happened to know somebody. But I think when there's children involved, it's always going to be a bit hairy. Yeah. And obviously the other person's ex-partner will always be involved in some way.
Yeah, they will. And
which is different to dating in your 20s.
Yeah, it is, because a lot of people do have kids when you're dating later on, and that's something that you got to consider.
The whole blended family thing. And my other experience of online dating is there's a lot of people who have not dealt with the emotional side of their life. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. But less of them than there would be if you were dating in your early 20s.
Yeah, you've got no problems then, have they?
Well, yeah.
They've been through the trauma of...
They may have no problems, but if they do have problems, they certainly haven't dealt with them yet.
No, but you're both the same. You're like, hey, let's fuck up together.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Whereas later on, I think there's been, 10 years later, you're heading into midlife crisis territory, which is notorious for needing a bit of therapy and a bit of help and a bit of considering what you want to do with this next phase of your life.
Yeah, you're right.
And some people are not there yet. Or they want you to come and fix them.
Yeah. They want you to come and do it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say the dating side of things is definitely the worst.
Yeah.
But obviously it can be the best too if you meet the right person.
That's true, and it can be quite exciting,
Yeah.
But that is more...
that's on my best side.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
Don't
more
hold that thought.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Continue.
Before we go into the excellent side of dating. The massive one is obviously when the worst bit of divorce is the fighting stage.
Yeah.
And conflict and going to court, all whilst feeling sad or grieving something that you didn't want to be over. It can make, you very angry and potentially use things to try and hurt the other person.
Yeah. Make you somebody that you're not normally.
Yeah. And more anxious because you're going through all of that kind of fighting stuff. Which even if you're, if you're going to fight or flight and you prefer flight or freeze, to actually stand up and be like, no, these are the things that I need in order for me to be able to move on is like just sickening.
Yeah. And there's not all that many situations in life, really, where you have to take it to court, you know, is there?
I mean, it feels serious. There are lawyers involved. It doesn't have to be a conflict.
No.
But more often than not, if someone is being left and they didn't want to be left, they're going to kick out.
Yeah, there's going to be a fight, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's harder because it's your partner.
And they know you better than anybody on the planet, so they know how to inflict wounds as well.
Yeah.
And it tends to be kind of a cycle as well. They'll be nice, then they'll be wounded because you didn't do what they wanted when they were being nice, and then they'll really lash out and be horrible, and then it will go back round again, probably on both sides.
Yeah.
And I think tapping into your own empathy and being like, what are they going through, is a helpful thing to do. Absolutely,
yeah.
But really fucking hard.
I bet, yeah, yeah. It must be really hard to think of how the other person's feeling. But at the end of the day, you're both going through something horrible, aren't you?
Yeah. And the absolute worst thing, which would make 6 worse things, but we'll just pretend it's 5.
Okay.
Is managing the kids.
Yeah,
like worrying about them and their mental health and trying to keep things like smiling when you want to punch somebody in the face. And
I know. I honestly don't know how you do it. Like,
well, it's done now. It's fine.
Well, yeah.
But at the time, it was like, this is properly crap, and you feel guilty as well.
Yeah.
For them, that was the main. I remember the next day after leaving, I was like, oh my God, my kids. How can I put them through this?
Yeah.
But it's also the best thing as well, because they get to see what it's like when you stand up for what you want and what you need, and you put your needs ahead.
And they need that example in their lives, otherwise they will put up with stuff as well.
Definitely. So those are the worst.
Good.
The best thing, I've put freedom, which obviously feels like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, it's shit. But if you can learn to embrace it and start doing what you couldn't do when you were in a relationship, it's like the most amazing feeling.
Yeah. And that's funny that you've put that as one of the best things to come out of getting divorced, because I bet if you're in a different relationship, it wouldn't necessarily it would feel freeing to be in that relationship, as opposed to coming out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's obviously a sign that you've done the right thing here. Not that you needed reassurance of that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess it's the feeling of being like in something with somebody, and then if that's suddenly taken away, how you embrace the space around you is a really big deal. And you can make it positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cocoon yourself for a little while in your nest. Soft furnishings, we've discussed before. But also being like, how can I make the best of this? A big thing for me in the relationship was I felt like I never had any time for myself. I would have to get up at 5 a.m. if I wanted to do anything like work related, because there was just so much going on, and it was obviously lockdown and 3 kids, a dog, 3 cats, 6 acres of land.
Yeah. I know, that sounds like a lot.
A husband with issues. It was a lot. So what to get out of that situation, I was like, fuck me, I'm like free. So the whole fight and flight thing was big.
Yeah.
I was in flight, and getting out felt amazing.
Yeah.
But also super traumatic.
Yeah.
So it's a really odd one. But now I can look at it and say, like, this is my second point actually, is the time. Like, I'm co-parenting, so I've got 50-50, which means I've got a lot of space to do all the other things that I'm interested in.
Yeah, great. So that is giving you freedom, really, isn't it?
Freedom, time, and I'm not beholden to anybody. As long as I'm there for my kids when I'm meant to have them, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah,
I can go away on retreats and tie people up if I want.
You can, and you will.
And I have.
Yeah, good.
But, you know, equally, if you're with the right person, you can do that anyway.
That's true, yeah.
So, and
that was my point. Like, you know, it obviously feels a freedom coming out of a relationship that you don't want to be in or that isn't working for you. But it wouldn't necessarily feel like freedom if you're with the right person.
Yes.
You know?
And I actually think a lot of this is to do with me.
Yeah.
So I think if I'd said to my ex, I'm going to go on this retreat, he would have been like, great, go on then.
Yeah.
But in my head, I had to be this particular person, which kept me trapped.
Yeah.
I talked about it in the fairy tale episode.
Yeah.
Which was way back when. Couldn't tell you the name. We'll put it in the show
We
notes.
will put it in the show notes.
But it's that idea that actually, how much are you trapped because of the relationship and how much is because of what you think you should be doing?
Yeah.
And how, you know, what we're controlling ourselves. So I guess you can take the same ingredients and make loads of different cakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah, it is up to you, yeah.
Which one you want to go for. And that takes time.
Yeah.
When you're really, really sad, it takes time to be like, oh, I'm so grateful for this time and freedom. Because of the identity crisis.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's never going to feel like that straight away.
No. Or it might do one day and the next day you panic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You, like you said before, it's not linear.
Yeah. It's like you're up and down all the time. The next one put is independence. Like I say, like you can do whatever you want now.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to be independent, actually. I feel like I've never properly understood how to do it because I went from one relationship to another.
But that's like you say, you're putting your own self-imposed rules on yourself to be with your partner and not do anything individual there, aren't you? You know? So it's not necessarily to do with a controlling partner, but it is a nice feeling to know that you don't have anybody to report into. Like, there's nobody, like, who's going to stop you from... Not that they would necessarily anyway. I'm not doing a very good job of articulating what I mean.
I think we're both in a similar thing in that. We're saying it's not necessarily the other person in the relationship being like, why are you not doing this with me? Which I know people do. They might be like, why are you always off doing this, that and the other and never spend any time with me? But sometimes it's a self-imposed rule that we put ourselves under when we're in a relationship. Or we're together now, so therefore we will do everything together.
Yeah, or I'll ask your permission for everything.
I think that's all right to be like,
it is,
I'm going to do this thing, heads up.
Yeah.
Is it going to impact on anything that we want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, it is, yeah. And not having to do that is a really nice feeling, though.
But learning how to do it.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to learn how to do that.
Independent and, you know, when you're in a relationship, one person does their jobs and the other person does the other. Like,
that's
what
true.
happens when you have to do all of the jobs?
Yeah, yeah.
I can confirm it's sometimes a shit show.
It's a learning curve, yeah. But then everything's done the way that you want it to be done, which is really great as well.
Not always, Katie.
Okay, well, it's for me. There's no socks in my living room that belong to anyone else.
That's true.
It's really nice.
There's only mine. Yeah.
That's good.
That is good. So dating.
Yeah.
That can be the best thing. It can be really fun, really exciting, as well as all the other things we said before.
Yeah, yeah. It's that one's definitely a double-edged sword. But, like, that can help you rediscover a part of yourself again. You know, like...
Like a dopamine hit.
Yeah. Yeah, it can help you feed into that dopamine cycle again that we're trying to avoid. It does do that.
Addictions, anybody?
Yeah, I love it.
You do have to be careful with that one, I think.
Yeah, you do. But when you find somebody that you like, that's a really exciting feeling as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, definitely. Even if it's like a short cycle, it's still nice.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That initial like, ooh, am I going to like this person?
Yeah.
It's quite fun. And you do feel, that did make me feel younger.
Yeah, it does.
To be like, I've got this freedom to go and date people
Yeah.
and meet new people. And
Well, and it's quite like, you're like, oh, I wonder what's coming next for me. You know, that's quite an exciting feeling.
I do wonder, Katie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the last thing that I put, that's the best thing, which again, it's like the double-edged sword, but if you can embrace it and get the support you need, I think having this space to work out who you really are
Yeah.
is awesome. And there'll be good days and bad days, but you've just got to ride it and learn through the bad days and enjoy the good ones.
And I think once you've been through that journey as well, you end up with a much better sense of self, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You're like, oh, this is me. Actually, I am all right.
Yeah.
Somebody would be lucky to be with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe like a new lease of confidence. And yeah, you get to explore exactly what you want and how to get there. And it's just you. The greatest love affair with yourself.
Yeah, that's it.
There's definitely some quotes on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Self-love.
it is true. Yeah, self-love and making new friends again.
Yeah.
Because you've got space to do these things.
That's true. Yeah, there's loads of space involved, isn't there? Which is
Yeah.
nice. It's nice to have that.
It can feel daunting, but if you can explore it and fill it with things that aren't just bagels.
Yeah. Well, so I don't necessarily fill my space with new friends, but I do read a lot, like you noticed. And I listen to loads of podcasts, and like I am expanding my mind.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to do that before, and that's really nice.
Yeah. I wonder if we have learnt lessons when we do go into a new relationship
Yeah, definitely.
that we can... If you see me start being like, oh, I can't, be like, Hannah, go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah, let's come back to this one.
Oh, well, thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed that.
Me too. Hope it was useful. If you've got any thoughts on what you think the best or the worst things are, then do get in touch.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, then. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time for another episode of Happily Ever After with me, Hannah Harvey. It would be wonderful if you could leave a review and subscribe. And of course, if you have a friend who might enjoy this episode, please do pass it on. For anything else, you can get in touch with me either through Instagram @mumsdays or my website mumsdays.com.